Welcome back to Books with AR. Renegade Immortal novel, Book 02, The Bloody Image of Cultivation, by Gen. Chapter 72, Seizing Foundation. The middle-aged man looked around for a bit, then muttered, "This place is indeed strange. 2 years ago, there was a sudden burst of spiritual energy which attracted these beasts. Since then, waves of spiritual energy have been sent out from around here. That is what attracts the beasts." The youth's eyes suddenly lit up. He said, "Elder Marshal brother, could there be a treasure here?" The middle chuckled and said, "There were some elders that also thought so, but after searching for a while, they determined that the release of spiritual energy was a natural occurrence." The youth sighed in disappointment and said, "That is unfortunate. If only there really was a treasure here." The middle-aged man let out a laugh and said, "It's getting late. I'll catch a strong crystal spirit beast, then we can go back." With that, the middle-aged man spread out his divine sense and found 7 to 8 crystal spirit beasts and began to observe them. Just at that moment, all of the beasts that were cultivating suddenly started to move, as if something startled them. Some even began to growl. Gradually, the number of growls began to increase until all of the beasts were roaring. Their roars were directed at a vegetation-filled cliff. The middle-aged man was stunned. Before he was able to call his fellow disciples to quickly leave the area, a huge divine sense swept past them. The middle-aged man's face changed greatly. Even with his 12th layer cultivation level, he felt completely powerless under this divine sense. The girl named Shoes, who was next to the middle-aged man, face turned pale. The flying sword under her feet flashed and fell to the ground. The girl and the youth hugging her also fell to the ground. The flying sword under the middle-aged man also faltered, and he had to use all his power to maintain flight. He took a step and grabbed the 2 falling people before landing on the ground. Just this simple action caused him to be drenched in sweat. After he landed, he quickly clasped his hands and said, "Junior is Xuan Dao sect's discipline Li Hai. I didn't know Senior was cultivating here. Please forgive us." The girl named Shoes also noticed that divine sense. It caused her to lose control of her flying sword. She respectfully said, "Junior is Xuan Dao sect's discipline Shu Fi." The youth was so scared that there wasn't any trace of blood on his face. He stood there, clenching the girl's clothes, not daring to speak. All of the beasts also felt chills when the divine sense spread across them. They all revealed looks of shock and fear. They lied on the ground, not daring to move. "Xuan Dao sect." A very old voice echoed from the surroundings. It was hard to tell whether the voice was happy or angry. The middle-aged man groaned. If he was by himself, he could have just escaped when he found that something was off. But now, with the junior sister and a little junior brother here, if he were to run away, then his masters would definitely hold him accountable. He could only hope that, because the Xuan Dao sect is so close and that they haven't done anything to offend the senior yet, the senior will not do anything. After the senior said that phrase, he began to think. The middle-aged man clenched his teeth and decided that his life was more important. If the senior started to act with killing intent, then he was going to save himself first. Shufi's forehead was covered in beads of sweat. She got very nervous when she saw her 3rd elder brother, who was always calm, scared pale. She hesitated for a while, then said, "Senior, Junior hasn't done anything to offend you. Before she could finish speaking, the voice let out a surprised sound and said, "You said your name is Shu." The girl was stunned. She respectfully answered, "Disciple is named Shu." The voice became silent again. After a long time, the voice let out a sigh and said, "You can leave." With that, there was a sudden change in the sky, as if there was an invisible hand that waved in the air. The 3 were pushed far away by an unstoppable wind. The middle-aged man felt even more horrified. Just at that moment, he felt like his entire body was imprisoned. If this senior wanted to kill him, he wouldn't even be able to react. Out of fear, he immediately grabbed his junior brother and sister and rushed away as fast as possible without a word, when the restraining force around them was gone. He was afraid that the senior would change their mind, so he used all his strength to get away. After the three left, the cliff covered with vegetation started to shake until all the vegetation fell off, revealing a dark cave. A young male with hair all the way to his waist slowly walked out. His face was white and his eyes sparkled. The moment he walked out of the cave, all of the wild beasts started to whine. Their eyes begged for mercy. The long-haired youth was about 20 years old. His gaze was cold as he looked at all of the beasts. He remained silent as he looked towards the Heng Yue mountain with regret in his heart. He was Wang Lin, who had been in closed-door cultivation for 4 years. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He muttered to himself, "I have reached the peak of Qi concentration a long time ago, but reaching foundation building is simply too hard. I have already tried it many times, but am still unable to break through. Situ, will the method you mentioned really help me reach foundation building faster?" "Yes. Have you decided to use my method?" Situ Nan let out a proud smile. "I told you before, while reaching the foundation building stage is hard, if you use my method, it will succeed for sure." A cold light flashed through Wang Lin's eyes. He said, "But I can't even beat someone at the foundation building stage. How could I catch one alive?" Situ Nan let out a laugh and said, "You can rest assured, because you have me here. This time, in order to help you reach foundation building, I'll take another risk and use my technique again. As long as you can find me an opening, I can help you restrain the person. You better find someone who has just reached foundation building so I won't have to waste too much essence." Wang Lin pondered for a while, then let out a sigh. He wryly smiled and said, "Situ, this foundation stealing is very vicious. Whoever I steal from will surely die. So let's wait and see first." Situ Nan said with discontent, "You? I have told you countless times that in the world of cultivation, the strong prey on the weak. Killing others for your own benefit is completely normal. With your current merciful nature, how long will you reach spirit transformation? If you don't want to use my method, you can also go look for wood element. If you can fill the heaven-defying bead with wood element, the upgrade should give you enough spiritual energy to reach foundation building. If you won't do either of those and don't have a Nassau Soul cultivator to help you, don't even think about reaching foundation building." Wang Lin pondered for a while, then said, "I wonder how other people reach foundation building." Situ Nan grunted and said, "It's simple. If they have a sect, then a Nassau Soul cultivator uses their own cultivation to help the disciple reach foundation building. If I still had my body, I could do the same and help you. In my home country, the status of a Nassau Soul cultivator is like that of a core formation cultivator here. Although there aren't too many, there are enough to help the disciples reach foundation building." Welcome back to Books with AR. Chapter 73, Tian Shui City. Wang Lin took a deep breath. In these 4 years, he had reached the peak of Qi condensation in 2 years. He spent the remaining years trying to reach foundation building, but didn't have any success. But because he kept trying to break into foundation building, the gap between his real body and his cultivation level became a lot smaller. Instead of looking like he was at the 3rd layer, he now looked like he was at the 8th layer. Wang Lin muttered, "Foundation building." His eyes flashed as he made a decision. He slapped his bag of holding, and a very extravagant-looking flying sword came out. It circled around him once before stopping in front of him. Wang Lin stepped onto the flying sword, his body moved, and disappeared in a beam of light. all of the beasts lying on the ground finally relaxed a bit and quickly scattered. Wang Lin went around the Heng Yue mountain and quickly flew away. The mountains, plains, forests, and villages looked very small under Wang Lin as he flew past them. In the blink of an eye, the village he was born in entered his view. Wang Lin pondered for a moment, then flew past the village without even turning his head. The Heng Yue mountain was located in the northern border of the country of Zhao. It was a very remote location, with most people living in small villages. Wang Lin's destination was the city 10,000 kilometers from there. The city was called Tian Shui City, and it was the largest city in the northern part of Zhao. Wang Lin had only heard about Tian Shui City. His teacher told him that there was an army of 100,000 stationed there. Wang Lin had always wanted to go there ever since he was a kid. Before he entered the world of cultivation, his biggest dream was to make a name for himself in the state exam, then become a high-ranked official in the capital and move his parents there. Wang Lin's mind echoed the wishes of his youth. He let out a smile as he flew toward the city. 10 days later, Wang Lin became confused as he floated in the air with Situ Nan's mocking laugh littering the air. "I saw you flying for so many days straight. I thought you knew the road, but it turns out you don't." Wang Lin snorted and said, "If it wasn't for you asking me to go into these forests, I would have found the city for sure by now." Situ Nan laughed and said, "There are many forests on the way there, so there is a chance that there are some wood elements that could be absorbed by the bead. I'm doing this for your benefit." Wang Lin was about to speak, but suddenly stopped himself. He spotted a train of wagons on the road below. Lu Sun, the head of the mighty escort service in Tian Shui City. Although his body wasn't big, he was very powerful. He had mastered the mountain-splitting palm to a high degree and could be considered one of the experts in Tian Shui City. He normally wouldn't come out for jobs, but this time, the shipment was too important and it attracted too much attention. That is why the North family asked him to come. Lu Sun was an easygoing person who loved to make friends. Everyone in the escort team gave him a lot of face. He was currently proudly riding on his horse. This shipment was already delivered, and although there were many thieves on the way, they were all scared and posed no danger. The most dangerous crisis was when they were attacked by the Greenwood bandits, but when they saw that Lu Sun was there, they gave him face and didn't attack, making him very proud. He closed his eyes and relaxed a bit. Tian Shui City was just up ahead, so this assignment by the North family could be considered complete. On a horse to the right of Lu Sun sat a very strong young man. He laughed and asked, "Leader, once we finish this big delivery, how much of the profit do you think the North family will give us?" A dark-faced man also said, "Leader, this shipment is so important that we should be able to get a decent part of the profit, right?" Lu Sun stared at them and said, "When has the North family ever cheated us? Just wait and see. No need to worry." The young man was not afraid to pat his horse and said, "Okay, with leader's words, I'm relieved." The dark-faced man let out a laugh. Right before he was about to speak, his face sunk. He asked, "Leader, do you see a person standing there?" Lu Sun focused his gaze and saw a figure standing at the crossroad. His face also sunk. He said, "Xianxia, ask him what's going on. If he needs help, give him some money. After all, everyone has hard times." Xianxia's head raised. He steered his horse and charged toward the person. When he got closer, instead of slowing down, he started to charge even faster. When Lu Sun saw this, he frowned. Although Xianxia did his job well, whenever he did something, he had to force others into a lower position. The dark-faced man let out a laugh and said, "That Xianxia isn't afraid of charging in, but that kid really does have good horse riding skills." The person who was standing at the crossroad was Wang Lin. He saw someone charge out from the train of carriages. That person quickly arrived before him. Xianxia was close enough to see what the stranger looked like. Although the person was very young, he was also very calm. He admired the youth for not being scared by his speed at all. He turned his horse and grazed by Wang Lin's side. After he charged past him, took a few steps back, clasped his hands and said, I'm Tian Shui City's mighty escorts, Yongsen. Does friend need any help? Wang Lin's gaze scanned Yongsen. He clasped his hands and said, I'm looking for directions to Tian Shui City. I'm sorry if I bothered you. Yongsen was stunned. He looked at Wang Lin a few times, especially at Wang Lin's hands and head. He smiled and said, No problem. Tian Shui City is not far. What is brother going to Tian Shui City for? Yongsen looked at Wang Lin a bit more. By now, the carriages had caught up, and a voice shouted, Yongsen, what is going on? Yongsen turned the horse and shouted, It's a kid that doesn't know any martial arts looking for directions to Tian Shui City. Lu Sen held his reins and quickly approached. His eyes lit up as he looked at Wang Lin and said, Friend, what is your name? Wang Lin clasped his hands and said, Hello, escort leader. My name is Wang Lin. This is my first time leaving home, so I hope escort leader can tell me directions to Tian Shui City. Welcome back to Books with AR. Chapter 74, Bloody Disaster. Liu San, after carefully examining Wang Lin, suddenly asked, Are you a student rushing here to take the exam? Wang Ling's expression remained calm. He shook his head and said, I'm not here for the exam. I have some skill in a craft and would like to make a living in the city. Liu San relaxed a bit. His question had a deep meaning. It was almost time for the state exam, so a lot of local villages sent students to the city to take the exam. However, all of those students would carry a box holding writing materials, but Wang Lin was carrying nothing. If he admitted that he was a student here for the exam, he would have to be wary of this person. But Liu San didn't take this too seriously. He laughed and said, What a coincidence! We are also heading toward Tian Shui City. Friend, how about you travel with us? A grateful look washed over Wang Lin. He said, Thank you, escort leader. The dark-faced man looked at Wang Lin and laughed. Huh, kid, can you ride a horse? Wang Lin wryly smiled and shook his head. Liu San pointed at the carriage behind him and said, What is there to thank me for? Everyone has a hard time when they're out traveling. Young man, there are only 4 days left until we reach the Tian Shui City. Wang Lin clasped his hands. Without a word, he got on the carriage. He looked behind him and saw dozens of similar carriages. He scanned them with his divine sense and found them to all be empty. He didn't bother with it anymore and sat down cross-legged. Young Sun reined his horse and walked next to Wang Lin. He asked, Friend, how come you don't have any luggage for your travels? Wang Lin sighed and shook his head. He said, I met robbers on the way. Young Sun was stunned. He looked at Wang Lin for a while, then said, Keeping your life is more important. This area hasn't been safe recently. As they were talking, Wang Lin's expression suddenly changed. He raised his head and looked toward the forest in front of him. He expanded his divine sense and found that 2 people were hiding there, staring at the caravan. After the caravan passed, those 2 they still didn't do anything, so Wang Lin didn't say anything and ignored them. After a day of travel, the sun was starting to set and night was about to come. Liu Sun shouted from the front, Boys, we will reach the Tian Shui City area tomorrow and the North family will send someone to greet us. Today, we won't be able to find any lodging, so we'll camp out here to rest for a bit and set out early morning. Once we reach the city, I'll take you boys to the Red Ice Palace to find you some pretty girls to play with. All of the guys let out laughs, then got off their horses. They formed a circle with the wagons and tied the horses to the wagons. After that, they pitched their tents. Some went to sleep, while others started drinking. The atmosphere became very lively. There were also 3 to 5 people taking turns patrolling the area. After Wang Lin got off the carriage, Young Sen pulled him aside to a campfire. During their day of conversation, Young Sun found that he really liked Wang Lin and bragged a lot about his deeds to him. The more interested Wang Lin seemed in his story, the more excited he got while talking about them. That is why he dragged Wang Lin to talk the moment the group stopped to rest. There were 3 people sitting next to the fire. Besides the escort head, Liu Sun, and the dark-faced man, there was also a middle-aged, scholar-looking man. He wore a blue robe, his skin was pale, and he had a broad forehead, but his eyes revealed an intelligent light. Seeing Wang Lin arriving, Liu Sun laughed and said, "Sir, this is the little brother I was telling you about, the one going to Tian Shui City to make a living." With that, he said to Wang Lin, "Little brother, this is our mighty escort's Mr. Wang. You are also named Wang, so you guys must have some relation. You guys should talk. Mr. Wang is a very knowledgeable person who has seen a lot of things." The middle-aged scholar laughed softly and said, "Lao Lu, you don't need to brag for me. What I know is not considered much." Liu Sun rolled his eyes and said, "Says who? If you are a small person, then I'm nothing. Little brother, this Mr. Wang is a living immortal. He knows everything up and down. His ability to tell fortunes is beyond amazing." Wang Lin carefully looked at the middle-aged man. He smiled and said, "Sir, you are full of energy and your eyes shine brightly. You are obviously a very intelligent person." The middle-aged scholar gave Wang Lin a surprised look and said, "It seems little brother is the same as me. I see that little brother looks like a scholar, but hides a dragon inside. Your future will not be average." Wang Lin smiled and said, "My village's teachers also talked about fortune-telling. After listening for a while, I also learned a bit." The middle-aged scholar laughed out. The dark-faced man quickly said, "Mr. Wang, check mine as well. I'm already getting old. Will I have any luck with marriage?" Liu Sun laughed. "How many times have you asked on this trip already? Every time Mr. Wang checks for someone, it takes a lot of energy, so just forget about it." The dark-faced man ignored Liu Sun's words and stared at the middle-aged scholar. The middle-aged scholar pondered a little, then answered, "Fine, I'll check for you. Young son, weren't you asking me as well? I'll check for both of you." Having said that, he closed his eyes, and when he reopened them, they were shining a golden light. Wang Lin's expression remained calm, but his heart faltered. He spread out his divine sense and found that there was a sliver of spiritual energy moving inside the middle-aged man. The spiritual energy moved in a strange path and arrived at the middle-aged man's eyes. The middle-aged man stared at the dark-faced man. He was muttering some words as if he was calculating something, and his hand formed a seal. His face turned red, and he said while frowning, "Liu Lao Wu, there is a bloody disaster in your future. If you can get past it, you will get married 3 months after the event." The black-faced man was stunned. "A disaster? No problem. Us escorts live in danger, so having to deal with the bloody battle is normal," he replied. The middle-aged man turned his gaze at young Sun. His expression changed. He said, "Strange. Why do you also have a bloody ray representing disaster?" With that, he quickly looked at Liu Sun and his face became dark. He said, "Something is wrong. This technique passed down by my family has never been wrong. Lao Lu, you also have the sign of a bloody disaster." With that, he stood up with a serious expression and looked at the surrounding people. His face became even more serious. "Lao Lu, I think something is wrong. I see that everyone here has the ray of a bloody disaster. This can't be a coincidence," said the middle-aged scholar. Liu Sun's eyes narrowed. He looked around, then asked, "Sir, do you mean to say that we will soon have to face a bloody disaster?" The middle-aged scholar nodded. After his eyes swept past Wang Lin, he was stunned. He carefully looked at Wang Lin, and his expression suddenly changed. His face turned red, and he spit out a mouthful of blood. His face revealed a look of fear. He pointed at Wang Lin and burst out, "You!"